Hey everybody, big fan of everyone here. I really enjoyed the film. It's emotionally intense and very eerie at the same time. I was kind of curious right off the bat, what was the atmosphere like on the set? Like, was it also emotionally intense, or did you guys kind of make the best of it?
We hated each other. It was awful.
It's awful.
I feel like it's always the case that actors always say, oh, it's like on the films that are like the most emotionally taxing, everyone's like joking between
Mm.
takes and it's actually like light. And then sometimes it's the lighter things where I don't know, maybe it has to do with like you release the emotion into the scene, so there's nothing left. And now, but yeah, it was joyful.
Yeah, and not to get into the sort of the inside baseball, but I had been on a lot of film sets
Yeah.
and seen sort of the way people felt on sets. I think it's really important as a craftsperson, as a creative person. I don't think it's just about what we do; it's also about how we do it. So I did my best. Obviously, films have constraints, and there's always going to be, stuff that is days that are tough or whatever. But I made it very clear to my producing team that we were there to work, but that everybody should feel like they were part of a team and sort of part of a family. And also, we had a very diverse cast and crew. Almost every except for one department head was a woman, and I think we were 60 or 70% either women or people of color. So it was a very diverse set, and I felt like, I mean, I was very happy coming to work almost every day. Maybe one day I was not pleased because of scheduling, but yeah.
Awesome. Yeah,
We
I think that.
also,
Go
sorry.
ahead, Charles. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say we were also a very small cast and crew, which meant we
Yes.
could all kind of really bond, and it felt like proper family vibes. And I
Yeah.
think also like the nature of the script was that it was so much really about the kind of the chemistry and the relationships between these characters. And so actually, like, Mac and I were friends beforehand. Like, Dev and I are really close now, and like a lot of the joy of this film was getting to like know these people and then just getting to play around. So even though the subject matter at times was heavy, we had a huge amount of fun all together, and that kind of stuff I hope shows in the nuances of the chemistry and the performances.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that. The performances are, yeah, out of the park. Kind of jumping off of that though, this is a character-driven horror story at its core. How important was that for each of you to have that trust, between actor and director, or even among castmates, to pull off something this emotionally and psychologically layered? Because it is a horror film, but it's like an onion, obviously. Like, there's so many layers to it that the more you pull back, like, I feel like there has to be some sort of give and take between the three of you guys, as well as the rest of the cast too.
Like, just to start quickly, like what I really loved about working with Seabold is that he really cared about performance. He wasn't just directing in terms of plot and story and schedule. It was a real focus on the kind of the subtlety of performance, and that meant as an acting exercise, this job was such a gift. Like, I learned so much doing it, and I'm really proud of the work, and that is a large part down to his direction, and that's um quite a rare thing, these days. Like, so much we're limited by, like, yeah, schedules and needing to get the shot and just like tell the story as quickly with the highest stakes possible. And this job was just such a beautiful opportunity to like really focus on the craft of acting.
Awesome. You guys, Seabold or Mackenzie, you guys have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think my interest in genre in general, and obviously you're a genre fan. I'm a huge, but specific fan of horror, and I tend to find that the performances, which I could be very critical about, are sort of versions of human beings.
Yeah.
This is, I think my biggest concern about performance is always like, does this feel like a real person? I mean, despite the artifice of cinema in general, I know that the film was going to be subjective, so we are rarely away from Henry. We don't have any big set pieces. We don't have any big. No one's running through a field away from somebody with an axe. And we were going to live in mediums and close-ups for most of the film. So I needed a cast that had good chemistry that I could see together, that was very watchable, which I think is a quality that is missing in my estimation in a lot of independent films. Is I need somebody that I don't want to take my eyes off of. And then letting the actors do their jobs, and they're terrific at it.
I
Makenzie,
don't know
any?
if I was like, do I have anything to add? I mean, I think well said.
Okay, well, not a problem at all. I'm really I'm really curious about this with Seabold. Uh, this film, it kind of walks the tightrope of psychological and supernatural, which I think is one of the most endearing things about it. And I do totally agree, and I like the way you put it, that the cast is very watchable, especially once you kind of get introduced to everybody. But kind of keeping that in mind, were you pushing to kind of have the cast push this as like a real story in the way that they acted it, or were they encouraged to kind of be more ambiguous with their performances?
Yeah, this is an important question because I think, look, I'm one person, I'm one director, I have my own interests and my own styles. My job is to make it what it's supposed to be. That's my only job, is to try to, it's sort of like, it's like seeing something, knowing where you're supposed to be going, but seeing it develop as you're going there, you know? It's kind of like pulling a curtain back on a painting and it takes 90 minutes before you fully see it. So for me, for better or worse, I think my job as the director was to just watch it unfold in front of me and be sensitive to when maybe it wasn't curving in the right direction slightly, or it wasn't quite going in the right direction. And I feel very blessed in that I don't feel like there was much time of me thinking, oh, this thing is going well off the rails. So as maybe it's just because it's my first one, and maybe it'll be different on other ones for sure. The fact is, I also was like very hands-on. I wrote the thing, so I had lived with this for a very long time, and so you cast the right people, and you crew it the right way, and you make a plan, and then I'm just letting it happen. Honestly, it feels almost like it's a train that's on a track that I'm building the track as I'm on it. So it's sort of I don't know if that answers your question, but
It totally does. And for the actors, like, was there any particular way as like Seabold kind of helped you guys navigate that grief or that haunting? Because it is ambiguous, and I think that's what's kind of really cool and special about the film in all reality, because it's really open to interpretation.
Yeah, 100%. You keep saying that you don't direct. And I'm like, you direct. What are you talking about? I feel like I specifically have a memory of like, particularly like my idea as an actor of like what there's a scene in a hospital um where I am waiting for some news, and I came in with an idea of like how much I should lay out. And that was a lot of emotion. And you were kind of like, well, let's like pull it back. Again, we were talking about this earlier, but the idea of like, don't show the audience the emotion. Let's have you try to fight to cover it up. So I think there was a lot of that, but also it goes beyond that. Like I think, yes, the performances are naturalistic, but they also are in the artifice of cinema. And I think that this tone has a very specific film. And I think our job as actors was to find that tone. It wasn't just to live to my perspective is that it wasn't just to live naturalistically in the characters. It was also to start to understand the in like novel writing, it would be more considered voice, but the tone is the voice. And so what was Patrick's voice? What was his tone? What was he trying to say and how did he want to say it? And so as the actor, that's what I'm trying to find. Every director has their own tone. Um, and a good director gets everybody playing the same one. Um, Bad directors, you're like, oh, every actor's in a different movie.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, and I think that kind of like goes back to like the initial question of what was the tone like on set, and I think that that plays into what we got because this in other hands, this movie could be a failure. And I think that because of the love and care that you guys all put into it, it's a fun ride. I mean, despite, how daunting and horrific it really is. And kind of going off that, Charlotte, Catherine's presence haunts the film literally and emotionally. Was there how did you prepare for that? Like reading the script, this is a role that straddles life and death, and it takes a particular care to kind of make that work.
Yeah, I mean, I think like those are two really different elements to the character. Like there's the real, the kind of the part of her life. She's actually like so alive. Like those scenes in the cabin
Yeah.
for me were just like just full of life and a lot of joy. And then there's a and that, has the other complete other side of where, she's literally haunting. And to have that kind of juxtaposition I thought was really fun to play with. But also important that it's not like it doesn't feel like a kind of a dour. She's as soon as she finds out that she's got kind of cancer, that she's just becoming a shadow. Like you really feel her vivacity and her aliveness up until the kind of the point where she doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, and I want to just piggyback on that. So, just whereas Devin's character, who is the spouse of a person who has a terminal illness, is completely inept at being able to handle those emotional stakes, which I think is a very interesting a difference between what you would normally be like, oh, the loving partner is going to take care. Like that character, Henry, is not really capable of doing that. I think Charlotte's character. She's not a typical I'm just got diagnosed with a terminal illness character at all. In fact, she comes alive. And she's like, I mean, she's just been diagnosed, like she's going to die. And I think Henry comes in and says, look, we can talk about this later. And she's like, no, I already decided. And then she's out the door. And I felt that was more interesting than, say, a character that would be like what we would normally see from somebody with a terminal illness.
Yeah, I like that too. I thought it added like a nice texture to that role that not we don't always get to see.
Yeah.
And that was kind of neat, especially knowing someone that has been through that and knowing that it's not over when they say that it's over. So that was kind of a neat ride from a viewer's perspective. What another thing that I thought was really interesting, this is a very character-driven story, not only for everybody really, and and I know I mentioned that before, but was there anything that like stands out to you or that surprised you guys during the shoot, whether it's your own performance, a fellow actor's work, or maybe something that was like unexpected, like when you guys were initially reading the script and you saw it kind of come to life? Was there anything that stands out as like, okay, this is legit, or this is just better than what I expected? Start with you, Mackenzie.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of gonna say the same. Yeah, just that there, for me, it's like the interesting thing is always watching the scenes that you weren't a part of, and particularly, I don't know if that hits at the midpoint. Does it hit at the midpoint, Patrick? Um, I'm like blanking on character name.
Buck.
Doc, thank you. Um, where does that hit structurally? Sorry, geeking out.
Yeah, it's just before Catherine dies. So that like that
Oh yeah,
cabin scene where they're
right.
sitting and having a beer, it's just
Yeah.
before the midpoint. Yeah.
Got it. So that scene, like where everything, it's like the beginning of everything starting to turn and thematically like encapsulates the film. And I had assumed that action would be far more, I thought you would feel its heaviness. I thought that the intention behind it would be very pointed. I should have known better because, of course, my direction on set was always to go the other way as well. But it's always interesting to see how something like looks completely different from how you imagined it would be.
Charlotte, do you have anything to add as far as like your own experience? Was there anything that stood out to you?
I actually don't think I have anything smart to say.
Oh,
I read the script and I thought it was beautiful and real and like yeah, didn't feel like a traditional genre film. It felt like people talking. And when I watched the film, I think that's what was achieved. And actually, like that in itself, I think is a kind of impossible task because so often the intention that you go in with you don't actually end up realizing and you get carried away by the stakes or the need to tell a story. And actually, like I think that the subtlety of this story is so haunting, and I think that's an incredibly that was what we intended to or what Seabold really intended to kind of do with it, and actually also what he achieved.
yeah, kind of piggybacking off that too, like working on larger scale projects, Game of Thrones, Spanish Princess. How did working on something like this compare in terms of creative freedom, or was it a challenge to kind of, work within, I guess, like a smaller box, if you will?
It was a real opportunity for me to get to like experiment and for it to be all about performance and on kind of on that like all about subtlety like and also it was like one of the first jobs I did working in an American accent, so for me it was a real great learning opportunity. Like, I really felt like I learned a lot from Theobald and he really crafted my acting in a way that I took a lot away from and I'm really grateful for.
Awesome. Yeah. So to kind of wrap up, like there's like when I finished this film, I had a lot to think about. It was a definitely a ride that lingers, and I want to know from you guys, what ultimately do you hope audiences take away from this, and how do you want them to feel? Because it almost has this like melancholy, like reflection vibe that kind of made me sit and think, because it's like we've touched on it multiple times, but it's beyond genre, it's beyond horror. How do you want people to feel when they see this or when the credits roll?
This is an answer I should let a director answer first, but I feel like I really want to answer it because when you say it's so interesting, I find this with like a lot of films where the films that make you think are the ones that often also end abruptly. So they don't tell you what to think. And so in this case, you're talking about this idea. You're like, oh, I was on this ride. And then I'm still thinking about it after, but it is a ride that just ejects you.
Mhm.
Um, so then you've got to make up your mind about what it was and kind of square with what has happened and how you feel about it. And anyway, that's what I
To jump in, I
like.
think I think that it works because this film is just like different than a lot of other films that are like this. Like many people have tried to do this, and
Mm,
it doesn't really pack the same punch. And
right.
yeah, so like there's something special about this Siebold. This film is you collected like a really interesting cast and then kind of just made it work, man. Like so, congrats to all of you guys. But I'm curious to see what you think about it as well.
Yeah, Jesse, thank you. That's very sweet of you to say. I mean, at the end of the day, there's a lot of things that are very different about the movie. That was the point. The
Yeah.
whole point was to take some chances. I think we, as a group of movie watchers in general, we've been moved towards sameness because sameness makes people money. It's just the way that the business works. And I'm not decrying the business. It's called the film business for a reason, which is money is a huge part of the creative process. It just is. I feel very grateful that the team, the financial team, and my producing team, we all understood that we were going to take some swings and make a different type of film that lived on the edges of genre. This is not at the dead center of horror because there's not a lot of blood. There's no one gets their head chopped off. There's no bad guy, right? It also doesn't live at the center of the drama genre, because characters are not really external about their emotions. There is no catharsis scene. There's one scene where where one of the two characters talks about their emotions.
Yeah.
Charlotte and Devin on the porch. So to me, I hope people like the film. If they don't like it, that's actually okay too. But I do think in general, as a creative group, we should be thinking how not only can we move away from sameness, but understanding that if something is different, that doesn't mean it's bad. It's just a different thing. And I feel like I got very lucky and I worked very hard to try to make the film work as a film. So I think the film works as a machine from beginning to end. Everybody understands what's happened. This is a hard part of filmmaking. Just the basics. Does it work? Does the film make sense? And then what's after that is just taste. And I think it's okay to not like a movie. It's okay to not like this movie, but I do think there will be some people that I think really connect with the movie. And I have always been extremely proud of my work, my crew's work, and my cast work. Regardless of whether or not, we sold for $2 million at Sundance or we get, 1,000 VOD views on the first day or something. That, to me, that's inconsequential.
And Charlotte, do you have any final thoughts? You're on the chopping block.
No, I couldn't do what they said. I'm really I'm really proud of the work that we did in this, but I have nothing better than what they've already very eloquently said.
Well, what I will say, I guess, to cap it off is that your English accent or American accent was it fooled me, and I've seen your other work. I had to double check to make sure it was actually you. So kudos to that. And here at CineDump, we let the doers know how they're doing, and you guys are doing just fine. Thank you so much for your time, and congratulations on the film.
Thank you, Jessie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. Have a good one, and good luck.